Welcome back. This is Eric Anderson, and I'm here with Tim Watts. We're down to the final 5 players of the Venue Champ Invitational Tournament. In the 2 seat, we have our chip leader Clayton Slack from the Cadillac Grill in Cass Lake with 37,100. In the 4 seat, Joel Aker from Crookston Icy Mugs with 7,400. Over in the 7 seat, from the American Legion in Warren, Keith Abrahamson with 27,500. In the 8 seat, Kevin Leiser from Erickson Smokehouse in Fertile, Minnesota with 6,900. And in the 9th seat, Paul Schnarr from the Gosh Damn Place in Deer River with 37,100. Every session, the top player from each of the 30 local venues in the MSPT Freeroll are invited to play for their chance to win a $250 MSPT qualifier seat. Second place wins a $120 Tech. Tech is a tournament entry certificate that will allow them to play in the 5K Bounty Tournament on June 21st at the Northern Lights Casino in Walker, Minnesota. And third place will walk away with a really nice MSPT track jacket valued at $50. I like Clayton's move here on the button. Just limping in with any 2 cards because he knows he can take it away from these guys with position. Joel hits middle pair. That's it. Fold, fold. And it's an easy game for Joel. Here's your chip counts. Clayton up at the top with 36,000 and Kevin down at the bottom with just about 7,000.
Quite a few jacks out there. A lot of shared cards, you see.
Alright. Paul raises with his suited ace and everybody folds around to him. Nice about having that big chip stack, you can just swing it around. People have to respect you.
To have such short stacks is definitely something to take advantage of with that big chip stack there. There's 2 of them at the table here. Really could be taking advantage of that.
Right. Yeah, Clayton and Paul could really be abusing these short stacks more than they are right now. Now here we finally wake up and everybody's got a hand except for Paul.
Should definitely see some action on this hand. Joel moving all in.
With the 4th best hand, Joel shoves his 9,000 chips in the pot. Massive overbet, but nobody's had any cards for the last half hour, so that King Jack, King off, Joel.
He got 1 ace queen out of there. It's going to help him out. And really at this point in the tournament, when you're down about 20,000 in chips to the top stacks there, it's you see that King Jack,
Yeah. I think I think he should have called right there. But facing a raise and a re-raise all in, pocket 4s just kind of shrivels up in your hand.
Two calls.
Oh, and he does call.
Yeah,
Yeah, and Keith is just telling Clayton the bad news that he also had an ace queen. Now this is for Joel's tournament life. He needs a king or a jack. Oh.
Wow.
Now he needs a 6, an ace, a queen, a 10. Doesn't do it, and Joel doubles up.
What a turn for Joel.
Yeah.
That 20,000 is really going to give him a little leeway from where
That'll help him.
he started.
Nice double up from the chip leader. And Paul likes that. Paul just vaulted into first place without doing anything. Paul Shinar from the gosh damn place in Deer River.
If you want to get me a deal. Holy cow. I just got my tip back for the
Definitely evens the chip stacks up a little bit.
You know, in retrospect, Joe could have made a lot of money if he would have let Keith into this pot too.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with that flop.
Yeah,
Either
he
one
would
of
have
them
hit
could've
that
gone
ace. They
anywhere.
would have all gotten in, and he would have turned two pair and taken them both out.
But with 9,000, it wasn't
Yeah.
a bad move to
No, well,
push there.
I wouldn't call it a good move.
Yeah.
But it worked out for him, so he looks like a genius. And then we're back to our no hands. Nobody's got anything.
You need to clean those windows, Eric, so you can see better.
Keith telling a joke that he enjoys.
Two, or else he's on the highway.
Wow, everybody hit a
A little
piece
bit
of
of
that
something,
flop.
something for everyone, yeah. Clayton with the best hand.
You may see Paul drop out here, but I think you can see some action with Joel and Clayton on this flop. Joel's just hitting these
Yeah,
last two
they
hands
they
hard.
checked it around. Now, you think Clayton's still steaming a little bit from losing with his ace queen?
I think with that check, Clayton's got to think he's ahead here.
Two bet.
Yeah,
24,
well,
four goal,
Joel just snap goes all in. Another huge overbet. He never does this without a queen. There's no draws out there. There's no flush draws. He 100% has a queen right now.
How well do these players know each other to be able to pick up on
Well,
that?
they've been playing for 4 or 5 hours right now. And Clayton should know that. Clayton should be able to get away from this. Especially for another 17,000 chips.
And even if he doesn't put him on a queen, he can't think his eight's good.
Oh,
Even
right,
if
yeah.
Joel has the king. And I don't think this is hard to get away from.
No, it's a pretty easy fold right now for a good player. And Clayton is a good player.
And we have a call.
And he calls.
Wow.
Just as I say that, he calls. And he knew it. He just walks away. He knew he was behind. I think he's still steaming from that last hand
That's
when he
two
lost with that
straight
ace queen.
hands. Oh my.
So he goes from hero to zero in 2 hands, and Joel is a beneficiary on both of them.
Joel couldn't ask for two better
No.
hands there,
It's a
doubling
perfect
up 2 in a
scenario.
row. Through the chip leader.
Clayton was ahead on the flop both times. Is that game over? No, Clayton's got some chips. Oh.
Down to 6.7. That
Well,
drops
that's-
him down to the short stack. I
The
believe.
according to the computer, he's still got 6,000 chips, but the dealer says no. So there might have been an error in counting at one time when they gave me the chip counts, so the chip counts were off. So I just have to manually go in there and remove Clayton from the tournament. Whatever happens at the table is what we go with, even if the computer is different.
So in 2 hands, Clayton goes from the chip lead to out of the tournament. Joel goes from just about the short stack to leading the tournament.
And that's why we love No Limit Hold'em.
Absolutely.
I'd be like Gary. He's got like 50 files. One guy who got more that plays. Looks like 10 files. He plays with like 15, 20 files.
Yeah, we call those dork stacks, Keith.
Nine folds.
That's my pet peeve at the table is when somebody has a whole bunch of chips and he doesn't stack them, stacks of 20, puts them in stacks of 5 or 10 or something like that and takes up a whole bunch of table space. Dork stacks.
Trying to make it look more impressive than it is.
We got a guy that plays it, that I play with it, just can't do the math if they're in stacks of 20, so he puts them in stacks of 10, and I give him a hard time all the time. Luckily, he doesn't have chips very often, so it's not a big deal.
Take 2 stacks of 10 and stack them up.
Yeah. If you would have asked me 10 minutes ago who's going to win this tournament, I would have put my money on Clayton.
It's shocking just to see, and it makes you wonder if the first hand put him on tilt.
Yep.
That he went ahead and called that second hand.
Yeah, he definitely should have folded.
Kevin wakes up with a nice hand here. Unfortunately, being the short stack, nobody else seems to have a hand to go to battle with him.
And he's only got one play. Kevin down around 8,000 chips. Blinds just went up. So he's got 8 big blinds. And he's doing what you have to do with 8 big blinds. Just ship it in with a good hand and hope it holds up.
Luckily, he just got through the big blind on that hand there. So he has a little bit of time to see if he can't pull the premium hand out.
Where's the first? First to worst.
Yeah. Joel's trying to rhyme over there from worst to first to worst to first.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if I were Paul, I think with Kevin stacked there, I'm going to raise that big blind with just a call.
I think I would pretty much abuse Kevin. The only problem is with his short stack, he might just ship it in with a king high, and he's already got 1,000 out of his 8,000 invested. He might just ship it in, but I think
that's a chance you got to take when it's just the two of you and you're the big blind. If he's going to ship it, he probably would have shipped it
before it got to you. Yeah, that's true. Especially when you see he's been doing it the whole time.
Absolutely.
Wow. Kevin sees 2 pair on the board and thinks his king might be good, and I can't fault him for that play.
But that's a hit for the stack there, right back down to where he was a couple hands ago.
Yeah, so he chips up a little bit and then he gives it away. I don't mind the call with the king high on 2 pair on the board, though. I would have probably tried to take a stab at it sometime earlier instead of just calling off your stack when you're short like that.
And I mean, at that point, when he's at roughly 8,000, your blinds are 1,000, you're putting in a pretty high percentage of your chips with any move that you're going to make.
Right. Yeah, he has to really sell it. He has to commit himself, or else get away from it. I think a call there probably the worst play he could have done. Just fold or raise.
I agree.
A lot of nothing. Wow.
Joel hits that middle pair there.
Yeah.
Takes the lead on the flop. Oh, wow.
And Paul hits his 2 outs. And now Joel has 2 outs. This is awesome. That's why Paul's the best. And Joel does not like folding. We've said that time and time again. He's got 3rd pair, and he just doesn't like to fold.
Meaning his card on the river.
Yeah.
You think it may put some caution in Joel's actions.
Well, Well, Joel just said you missed your club flush, huh? But he goes ahead and folds anyways. Nice hand, Paul. I like it. So he just chips up. He's quiet the whole tournament and then just starts chipping up. $18,000 pot. Puts him way above with 41K.
Joel didn't seem to like to hold on to the chip lead very long.
Yeah. He didn't, did he? And he just said I should have folded. Joel, you put him on a higher pocket pair and called him with the 5. I don't think you did. I think you're just making up stories now.
A couple aces here with the button and small blind. Both of them just limping into the pot. Nothing on the flop to help any player. And I think if you're Paul, you have to make that play after it was limped in pre-flop and then they checked to you on the.
Good job, Keith. I like this. He fires 2 barrels at it, and Paul gets away from it. And Keith has air. He's got 10 high with a king on the board, and he shows a lot of heart by firing a second bullet at it and taking it down. Good job, Keith.
Very nice play.
I'm from the area. I know the back roads. I don't remember that. No, we were going to Monona. I don't remember. No, we were the curve one curve was yeah, I've been took us all along past the vendor. Took us an hour, over an hour. If we known you were there, you could have rolled with us. We're our
And they're talking about how nobody at the table knows how to use their GPS system.
Oh, there we go.
Kevin with a 10 queen suit in the big blind. Short stacked. I think he puts his last 4K in the pot here.
You know, and I would probably do the same thing in
I
that
would.
position.
Yeah. You know, Acre's going to come along. Yep. Yep. Queen 10 suited. He's already got 1,000 out of his 5 in there. Yeah, I do that every time.
Every time.
And he just happens to be dominated by the ace queen.
And it's just bad luck. I mean,
And right, I don't know what Joel's thinking about. He's got to call $2,000 into a $10,000 pot. That should have been a snap call, but yeah, Kevin sees the bad news.
let's see how Joel can do with being ahead in the hand pre-flop.
Yeah, he hasn't been ahead very often. Uh-oh. Oh, yeah. Keith folded 2 diamonds.
Wow.
And Kevin bounces. Kevin's a great player. Congratulations for 4th place, buddy. That's a stone bubble. The next guy out gets a nice track jacket. Yep, I played with Kevin before. I went to Vegas with him. He's a really good player. And unfortunately, he just didn't hold through. VPIP right there stands for voluntarily putting money in pre-flop. And they're all up around 50%. So half of the time they see a card, or half of the time they get dealt, they go ahead and come in with it.
Sure.
Normally, at a final table, normal is like 20 to 30%. These guys are way more passive and see a lot of cheap flops. There's not a lot of raising, so it lets them in cheap. So more and more players are getting in, so their VPIP is a lot higher.
9 calls. Forward is going to check. 1,000, 4 calls.
Wow.
Paul hits,
Paul
his-
hits the flush on the turn there.
9 bets, 1,000, 4 calls.
and it's not a scary board for 2 6s.
That 10 may make him slow down a little bit.
If it's a small enough bet, I think Joel's going to stick with him just because he doesn't like to fold. I think Joel's from Missouri. He's from the Show Me State. He wants to see your cards.
Yeah,
He's a
9
sheriff.
bets, 4,000.
Oh, he does fold. He gets away from it.
Upside down there.
There are a lot of outs on that board. That was a good play by Joel.
Yeah,
there.
it was a very wet board. You know, you had the flush out there, the straight out there. Here's your chip counts. Keith is down around 27. Joel's at 37. And Paul Shinar is still leading the pack.
I want second. Look, 250 at that area. Oh,
Yep, Keith is correct. You can use that $250 qualifier at any MSPT event. The nearest one and the biggest one is going to be at Canterbury next week, which is what I would recommend going to. But you can use it at any time. If you're down in Baton Rouge in November, come see me. I'll put you into the qualifier. If you want to play in Colorado, if you want to play in Chicago, if you want to play in Milwaukee, we'll put you into wherever you want to go.
9
A
bets,
lot of opportunities out there.
Yeah, we're playing in the MSPT is got 20 locations in 9 states this year. It's just huge.
Wow.
We just reached our $10 million dollar mark at our last tournament. We gave away $10 million. Nice fold, King 10.
So knowing these players like you know them, who do you feel like has the advantage to be able to take charge of this three-handed play?
We talked about this in the last episode. Paul Shinar from Gosh Damn. If you add up the main event winnings from the last 5 years, he is second place overall. I mean, he's a good, solid player. He's obviously venue champ because he's sitting at this table right now. He's chip leader right now. I don't see him making mistakes, and he's just solid.
Nipples are still hard to play with. Yeah, like that.
And Keith's talking about somebody's nipples.
What? 7 calls. 9 checks.
Who's winning?
At the beginning of this episode, I would have said Clayton first, Paul Shinar second. Would have been my guesses. Clayton crashed and burned, went on tilt and busted out, so now I'm going to put Paul as first. Keith and Joel play with each other a lot. They're both over in the Crookston area. Warren, they play at the regionals together. They know each other really well. So you'll see the different dynamic when they're in the pot together as opposed to when Paul's in the pot with one of them, because he's from the absolute opposite side of the tour. He's over in Deer River. They're both over in the Crookston area, so they don't play at all until they get to the state tournament. That's the only time they'll see each other, or at a location like this when we bring all the venue champs together.
And that's something that Paul could take advantage of. With 3 players remaining here, just the comfort level that the other 2 may have with each other. He may be able just to throw his chip lead and his weight around a little
9
bit.
bets, 1,000, 4 calls, 7 calls.
See, Paul's got the best hand right now, but statistically, Keith is the winner because he's got 2 overcards and the flush draw.
7 calls.
Keith has 20 outs up there, and he misses all of them. Paul had to dodge the deck, and he did it. And now Keith is just going to call with king high, and Paul shows him the bad news. He's got a full house.
Wow.
Yeah, Paul almost didn't want to show. He's like, all I have is a 6. And Keith like, no, I called you. You have to show your cards. And
That's the risk you run into when you hit on the button to allow the other players into the pot with that king nine.
I think Keith could have taken that pot away at any time with his flush draw. I think I would have raised him with the flush draw. Paul would have got away from bottom pair. He played it very passively and lost the maximum. So Keith, that was one error you made. Remember when I told you Paul doesn't make mistakes? He wouldn't have made that play like Keith just did.
Right.
And there's, you can see Carolyn in the background's had too many cocktails. Her left eye is squinting. She's in pirate mode. We call that. Now I expect to see Paul with that big stack, playing every button, knowing he's gonna take it away when he's gonna go check, check. He'll bet, they'll fold, and that's his whole game plan, to get in cheap and just steal it from him. It's nice when he actually has the best hand every time.
It is.
And it goes check, check, bet. But he's going to go check, check, bet on any flop. He just happens to have it right now.
And he's playing his position very well.
Yeah. Now, right now, Paul doesn't think I paired my 4 and I have a better kicker right now. He thinks I'm going to take this away from Joel, and he just did. He wasn't playing his cards at all. He was playing the players, and that's why I'm going to give it to Paul.
And that, like I said, that may be the advantage that Paul has with there being not much familiarity.
The statistic that just came up, pre-flop raising, Keith was at 12% raising pre-flop. Paul was at 36%.
Person wins the 250, can they split it in half for 2 120s?
Yeah, Joel's trying to figure out a way he can split that first place prize. I told him you cannot split it in half, but you can sell it.
Okay. In the next year? 20 months.
I'm interested to see how Joel's going to play this 10 jack on the button here.
Let's say how much.
Canadian.
For how? Yeah, quit bringing your very good.
Just a call.
7 folds. You're going to pay more for it than what it's worth. Canadians are paying more than most people.
Oh, I thought it was 3.
9 checks. 4 bets, 2,000. 9.
And a snap fold.
So Joel wins the hand, but
He
again,
won the hand because he had the cards.
he did.
If he doesn't hit his 10, he checks behind. He's a more passive player, whereas Paul would have bet in position at any time.
regardless if he hit the board or not.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I'm blind.
You see Paul continuing to build his chip lead, up over 50,000 now.
I need to get some stanchions at the next event to keep Carolyn back.
I'm getting the card. Wait for each other to blow. 7 folds, 9 folds.
And with that chip lead, you're really going to call almost every hand when you're in the small blind if there's no raise.
Look at this. A 3 high. Paul is playing the board and he bets at it and he takes it down because he's not playing his cards. He's playing blind right now. He doesn't care what his cards are. He's just playing the player.
And that's classic big stack. That's how you should be playing your stack.
Yep, he's playing excellent. And the funny thing is, out of these 3 guys, Paul is the least likely to watch this video, so he won't even hear all of these accolades we're giving him.
Nine calls. 4 calls. 7 checks.
A lot of post-flop play with these guys.
4 checks. 7 checks.
And that's what I was just thinking. You don't see many with these 3. You're not seeing a whole lot of pre-flop raising by any position.
Right. Yeah, if I'm at this table, I'm raising every button.
Every button.
And
And if the button folds, the small blind's raising. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I'm actually raising every position.
ABC poker.
You know, you open yourself up to getting trapped, but you can get away from it. I'm just, if I'm the big blind and the small blind limps in, I'm raising. If I'm the small blind and the button folds, I'm raising. I'm just playing way more aggressive pre-flop.
Yeah, I'm trying. Oh, he's gonna do it.
And like I said, if I'm in Paul's spot on the button, I'm raising quite a bit. But I really can't fault Paul because what he's doing is working for him. He's really built that chip lead up quite a bit. Now it helps to have pretty good hands like he has here, King Jack suited.
And we finally see a button raise with an ace.
7 fold. Non-call.
Just a call by Paul.
Since everybody's been limping in, when somebody actually raises, it looks way stronger right now. Whereas if I'm playing this and I'm raising every hand,
Right.
it doesn't look as strong when I raise because I'm always raising.
9 calls.
Joel with a continuation bet.
Chip. Yeah. 9 chip.
Right here, Joel gives up. I would expect Paul to lead out on any river.
Chip. Yeah.
Oh, Paul, you could have stole it from him. Okay.
Weird.
Chip counts are staying pretty steady.
5 and 5 with the balls for a while.
Paul in the lead, Keith in the
Yeah. Like,
at the end, and Joel right in the middle.
Sorry, you got chips. I'm gonna jump in the back and pick up Brian. I think this is out in the box. Make sure you hit the railroad tracks. You're just right. You know the
Now, in my estimation, this is a hand where Keith should raise the button.
Yes.
All right. Family box.
Yeah,
But he
he could.
just limps in and
Yeah, he could have raised it and
Both
picked up the
callers.
$3,000 that's out there. It just so happens to go check, check, bet.
And
he takes it down anyway.
My social life is so pathetic. I practice my fitness lines on series. Yeah, you're
Aggression frequency. Oh, they're talking about it 7 o'clock right now, and Damien is the tournament director upstairs, so he's got to go upstairs and run that tournament.
Keith moves all in. Big blind. It's not going to be any action on this hand.
And we're going to lose Damien. I think Kevin comes in and deals for us to finish off the tournament. Yes, he does. Thank you, Kevin. Hey, Damien did a great job. He dealt for 2.5 hours. Thank you again, Damien. I appreciate that, buddy. And Kevin's going to deal for the next hour and a half, so thank you, Kevin. I like that Run Good sweatshirt. You can't see it very well here. Looks exactly like the one I'm wearing right now, except for it's black. Run Good is a company down in the south that you might have heard of. That they make poker gear, and we ran into them. MSPT had an event in Oklahoma. We ran into the guys from Run Good, and they combined our logo with their logo, and it's a huge hit. We really like it.
And it looks great.
Looks real sharp. You can see in the background, Brad is wearing the original MSPT shirt with the logo and the brand. That's very popular also. And I can't wait. Wednesday, I'm going to be down at Canterbury for our next event, and we've got a whole new line that we've come out with that I haven't even seen yet. So that's going to be exciting.
Absolutely.
Of apparel.
Getting your name out there.
Yeah, it's huge. MSPT is the hottest tour on the planet right now. It's,
Really taking off.
yeah, we're breaking records all over the place. We broke Minnesota's record. We broke Wisconsin's record. We broke Iowa's record last week, and at Canterbury, I predict we're going to break the Minnesota record again.
And we're talking about some places where you see the WPT play.
Yeah, WPT. We're bigger than WPT. We're bigger than Heartland. We're bigger than all these
You need one of
places.
them, tennis.
It's really been an amazing run.
Just in the last couple of years, it's just exploded. Now we're, like I said, we're in 20 events in 9 states. We just had Potawatomi in Milwaukee 3 days ago. We came over with that news. We'll be at the Venetian in Vegas. I can release that now. We've known about that for about 6 months, but we couldn't talk about it until last Wednesday. They finally signed the deal and said, yes, we're a go. So now I can tell people we're going to be at the Venetian in Vegas on June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. $1,000 buy-in tournament. $400,000 guarantee. It's going to be huge. So if you're in Vegas for the WSOP, stop by and see me at the Venetian.
That's an absolutely big venue for MSPT to be able to take its tournament too.
Yeah, it's huge. The Venetian, I didn't know this. They have the largest poker room, square footage wise, in the country.
Wow.
I hope I'm right there. I read that last week. I hope that's the right statistic, that I'm not broadcasting false information. But yeah, it's huge. I've been there. It's huge. I like it.
So you heard it here. MSPT's taking over Vegas.
You saving me work.
Now on the big blind with 10-8, I kind of like that hand. Of course, he doesn't know that Paul's going to have the ace-queen suited.
Right.
So you may actually see some pretty decent action going into this hand. Oh, he goes ahead and folds it.
Yep.
And I guess with his stack, I mean, it's...
Yeah, he doesn't want to commit that much of his stack with that's like almost 20% of his stack. And Paul is finally showing a little bit more aggression with that big stack. He should be doing that every hand. And once he does that, I've played with these guys before, and after about an hour of doing that, they just lay down to you. You know, they need to wake up with a hand to play back at you.
And by that point, you've taken
You've got the
a
chip
good chunk of their chips, and even if they catch something, you're...
and you can see their frustration building, but they can't do anything about it if all you're doing is swinging that hammer. And then you really get paid off when you hit a hand. You wake up with kings and they never put you on it.
Exactly.
You know, if I were to raise in that situation, Keith would have called me. I would have had him dominate ace queen over 10-8, and I would have got more chips.
That's 1,000, not 800. There you go. Have it. Good play, good play. 800. Is it 800? Yeah. Good.
Joel just said I'm getting wore out, and Paul says wait till you get old like I am. And Paul is he, like I said, I'm a big fan of Paul. He's a great player. He's a classy guy, and one of the best players on the tour, and one of the oldest. You know, so he's beating out these young guys on a consistent basis.
And Paul looks to be the most comfortable one at the table right now.
Hey, you get
It's
to
not hard to do when you do have the chip stack that he has.
I was gonna say when you've got 50K, it's easy to be comfortable.
Wow.
Keith flops
Nailed that.
Keith
That
flops
flop.
a 3 high flush.
Paul may stick around.
Mine bets 1,000.
And you could see in his body language, Keith knew he was going to ship all in. You know, he grabs his stack of chips, points at Paul and says, "You're first," and just gets ready to put that stack in. He knew what he was going to do right away. Paul has 7 outs. Does he want to risk 20K and put himself down at around 30K and put Keith up at you know.
And you haven't seen Paul make that
No.
risky gambling move that we saw Clayton do earlier.
Exactly.
Or that
Yeah.
we've seen Joel do. He's played a very
He's solid.
strong game of poker here, and he's really, when he's gone into a pot, he's done so with the intent to play through it, not to try to catch.
Right. He's had the best hand or the best draw, and he's aggressive when he's got it. He's
But like you said, Keith didn't really hide it very well that he had his intention to ship it all in.
right. And in reality, he didn't want to hide it. He wanted to telegraph, hey, I'm moving all in. I've got a strong hand because he's got a 3-high flush. He does not want to see another heart.
That's right.
So he's happy everybody folded. So he didn't try to hide that. He's like, boom, I'm strong. Get out of my way. Just give me the pot. 7 deuce versus 7 deuce. And Paul leads with the jack.
Paul
high.
comes out with the best hand again. Yeah, well, this may be
Oh, look at this guy.
fun hand. Look at this. Did somebody have a 7 deuce prop we weren't aware of?
Yeah, I know, right? You played the 7 deuce game at my house.
7 deuce against 7 deuce. That is on the replay on there. Yeah, it is. I got the best hand and threw it away. Yeah. You do that. Look, you learn to play.
Paul's
Not a whole lot to brag about with your 7 deuce.
He's just happy he finally made a play. See, and that's what that's what we've been talking about. That's what you've got to be doing. Your cards don't matter. Just bet.
Yeah, all right, what's the next line? 6-12? 6-12 and 100.
And the blinds are going up right now.
Yeah, you
They're actually supposed to take a break, so they're going to take a quick break to stretch their legs and go to the bathroom, and
really next.
then they're going to come right back.
What is your price? $50? Their price is $50 sweatshirts, like, yeah. Or, and, there's 120, and then the 250 gets, yeah, let's go.
So all 3 of these guys are
They're in the money.
they're in the proverbial money there.
Yep.
Our top place finisher will receive that $250 entry into an MSPT event of their choosing.
Correct.
And second place will receive, as you mentioned before, they'll receive the tournament entry certificate, and third place will receive the nice MSPT jacket, valued at $50.
Pretty good for a free tournament.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you got a whole about 2 seconds on here or something like that?
Right now they're talking about the RFID technology. RFID is radio frequency identification. There's a chip in every card, and under all of these numbers is an antenna that reads the chip. And as I'm doing the event, I can't see what your cards are. I can just see whether or not you put your cards over the table.
Now Keith just calls here out of the small blind. If I were Paul, this would be another position where I'd use that
Bump it up.
stack. I would raise 5-6 of heart. Keith is the shortest stack at the table. Most likely he's going to fold that hand. With
And after
the
you do
blinds
that-
at 6 and 1200.
Yeah, you do that 4 or 5 times, and he's just going to start folding a small blind to you.
That's right. Now again, in this situation, it works out for Paul.
Yeah, it
He
worked
hits
out
top
because
pair.
Keith hits middle
Keith
pair
hits
and bets
middle
out. But I'm betting every time when he limps into my pot. That's a pretty disciplined fold from Keith, actually. Heads up, you get a piece of the flop. Nobody ever hits a piece of the flop. If you hit a piece of the flop, I'm going to call another 2K. But that's a disciplined fold. Good job, Keith.
And part of that is just being at this table with Paul and seeing how he's played, giving
Yes.
Paul respect that with that raise that he has
Exactly.
your hand beat.
And that's where I would have got paid. With my aggressive reputation, I would have got paid off with top pair versus middle pair in that situation. The problem is, I get picked off on my bluffs with middle pair a lot.
That's the risk to take, but that's how you played your stack. And I mean, you've been known as a fairly aggressive player at the tables, and it's worked well for you. You have multiple cashes to your name, And to each their own style, and that's what makes poker such a great sport. I mean, it's not everybody playing it the same way.
Right. And there's no correct way, with my air quotes, no quote correct unquote way to play poker, which makes it so exciting. It'll be interesting if a bunch of hearts come out, what happens. And we have a bunch of spades, so it's not a big deal. And
But
again,
both Keith and Paul hit a piece of this flop.
Keith gets middle pair, Paul gets top pair. It's got to be frustrating for Keith.
We'll see if he can keep that same discipline he displayed in the last hand.
You got a call here, right? I mean, Paul can't have it every
feel that
time.
Paul, exactly. You can't feel that Paul hits it every time.
But he is. That's the funny thing. He's hitting it every
Paul.
time. I don't blame Keith for calling here. I'm calling there.
Now I'm calling there as well.
Because Paul's not hitting it every time.
Now Keith gets a straight draw on the turn.
Yep, he's got 9 outs. He can hit any 8, any 7, any 6.
6,000.
Now that's going to be half.
Yeah, it's half the
Keith's
stack, and he gets away from it. Wow, he's just good fold, Keith. I think I would have lost my stack on that one if I had anything left from the last one. Paul extends his leads to 60,000 chips, and Keith is down around 13,000. You can tell on his face he looks really frustrated, but he's been making the correct plays. The cards just have not been there for him.
Joel seems to have slowed his action down as he's seen his chip stack fall back down. He's not nearly as aggressive as he was, 30 minutes ago.
Right. I think another thing is he realized at break just now he was asking me what the prizes were because he just realized I'm in the money right now. Keith has, what does he have, like 10 big blinds? If he can let Paul knock out Keith, he moves from a $50 jacket to a $120 seat, and he's playing heads up against Paul. So if he just backs out of the way and lets Paul and Keith fight, it not a bad strategy for a tournament.
So Keith's all in with his queen 10 at the big blind.
Right. And I think Paul gets away from it. He's got the best hand. He doesn't have any way of knowing that. He doesn't want to race and give Keith any more chips. Even with his 60K, he's not going to put 10 in. And as soon as I say that, he's going to put his chips in the pot. I don't hate this. But like I said, that's what I would be doing if I was Keith. I don't know if I would have shoved my whole stack in there. I would have done maybe a 3x bet or something like that. But no, Paul does get away from it.
And we see that a lot when you're every hand looking at mediocre cards, poor cards. You see something like a queen 10, it looks like a phenomenal hand.
Yeah, it looks like gold you just woke up with. Yeah, when you're folding 9-2, 7-5, Jack 3, and then you look at a queen 10, you go, wow, look at this. I got Broadway cards. I'm in.
Right. And it worked out for him that time. He was able to get Paul off his king 9 of spades. And that's going back to what I said earlier. Paul hasn't really gotten into that coin flip, let's take a gamble on this type thing. He's built his stack the right way. He's played very solid. He's not just going to give away 10,000
right
there.
Exactly. He's not a gambler. He's a card player, which is why he does so well.
Now here's Keith with ace 10, and
I
probably
expect
going to see him to ship it again.
I think he might do a little value bet since his hand is so much better. There you go. Yeah, he puts half his stack in, which is essentially, or a third of his stack in.
And at that point, I mean, it's when you put a third of stack in pre-flop, most of the
Voluntarily
time,
putting your money in pre-flop. Shinar at 67% with the. He's seeing the most flops with that chip stack. It allows him to see everything.
and that's how it should be. But again, in that position, I would like to be raising it up. He wouldn't be seeing that many flops because he would be taking down the blinds.
Right. If he had a little more aggression pre-flop. if he was just going, the blinds are 500, 1,000. If he goes to 2,000, they're folding to him. Just a min raise every time.
Especially now that you, and like you mentioned, that Joel's just trying to bide his time. He's not going to tangle with.
Right.
With
He doesn't want third place. Now he's looking at second place and beyond.
the only person that Joel may get into a pot with would be Keith. But even that's dangerous. I mean, you've seen Keith not afraid to ship it in. Joel's only ahead of Keith by around 11,000 chips right now. So if Keith is really trying to get into that top 2 to get the tournament entry certificate or the $250 entry, then he really just needs to stick with what he's doing, biding time, avoid any big pots.